When ye see a cloud, rise. Out of the west straightway ye say, there comes a shower, and so it is. When you see the south wind blow, ye say, there be heat, and it comes to pass. You hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky and of the earth, but how is it that you do not discern this time? Blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he comes, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that he shall gird himself, and make them to sit down to meat, and he will come forth and serve them. And if he shall come into second watch, or come into third watch, and find them so, blessed are those servants. And know this, if the goodman of the house had known when the thief would come, he would have watched, and he would not have suffered his house to be broken through. But if that servant says in his heart, my Lord delayeth in his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink, and be drunk, the Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looks not for him, and at an hour when he is not aware. And he will cut him in pieces, and will appoint him his portion with unbelievers. And that servant, which knew his Lord's will, and prepared not himself, neither did his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man comes at an hour when you think not. Kind of scary, isn't it? Kind of weird, actually. Probably wondering, what is going on? We're starting the book of Revelation. I've never been more excited. Chris, I've never been more excited. I'm telling you. And this is my doomsday clock, see? 1 minute to midnight. Just remember, we're almost there. Anyhow, turn on the lights a little bit, open up your Bibles, grab the book of Revelations, last book in the Bible, and we are going to start a 13-week series on, to me, it's a wonderful, wonderful book. As John Stott writes, to start reading Revelation is to step into a strange, unfamiliar world of angels and demons, of lions, lambs, horses, and dragons. Seals are broken, trumpets are blown, and the contents of 7 bowls are poured out on the earth. 2 malicious monsters appear, one emerging out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, the other rising from the earth with a lamb's horn and a dragon's voice. There is thunder, lightning, hail, blood, and smoke. Sounds great, doesn't it? I mean, this sounds like an uplifting book. I'm excited about it. A few people I've talked to the last few weeks are not so sure. It's rather scary and ominous. It's confusing. It's mysterious. For some, it makes absolutely no sense at all. Well, that's going to be our goal, to make sense out of this book. To really treat it with respect and honesty, but to learn about it and to live by it. Chapter 1, verse 3 says, people are blessed who read it. It also said people are blessed who take to heart what's written in it. So it affords us a blessing. It's a good thing to know and understand. This first week, the title is Soon. We're going to look at chapter 1 through 3, but we are going to take about 13 weeks on this. Let's read the first 3 verses together. The revelation from Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servants was what must soon take place. He made it known by sending his angel to his servant John, who testifies to everything he saw. That is, the word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear it and take to heart what is written in it, because the time is near. I want to set some groundwork on how we're going to approach Revelation. If you don't know, this book has caused a lot of divisions within the Christian church. Throughout the generations, people argue, disagree, actually disfellowship one another on how you interpret this book. Even the great Martin Luther said this book is neither apostolic nor prophetic, meaning he's not sure it was written by apostles, nor is he sure it really is dealing with the future in a realistic way. That is why the theme for my study is going to be Revelation responsibly. Responsibly. It begins by saying the revelation from Jesus Christ. The revelation, what does that mean? That sounds like a scary word. The Greek word is even scarier. Revelation comes from the word apocalypsis. Apocalypse now. Oh man, what does that mean? All it means is unveiling. To take curtains and open them up so you can see what's behind it. The revealer is Jesus Christ himself. This book we have in our hands was given to John, actually by an angel, but directly from Jesus. So really, this is Jesus' book. And he is the one who is going to reveal to us things we wouldn't know if he didn't tell us. He showed John hidden treasures and mysteries and symbols. And often in the book of Revelation, he invites John to come and see. Come and see. This also could mean, you see where it says the revelation from Jesus Christ? Some scholars believe it should say of Jesus Christ, meaning it could be from him or it's about him. A fancy word, which we're going to use often, eschatology, means the study of end times or end things. The purpose of end things, the purpose of the end of the world, the purpose of the end of the age is to reveal Jesus as he is in all of his glory. That's the whole purpose of Revelation. It's so we can get to know Jesus. Often you're going to see in chapters 4 and 5 the whole heavens bowing down to him and praising him. We want to know more about Christ. What's interesting, in the book of John, chapter 17, verse 24, Jesus has a deep desire for all of us. And he says to his Father, Father, I want those you have given me to be with me where I am and to see my glory. Revelation is going to show you where Jesus is, and it's going to reveal his glory. And I'm telling you, in Jesus' resurrection body, he is awesome. Truly awesome. But that's Revelation. What about responsibly? What do I mean by that? Well, there's two things we need to avoid when we study this book, and there's two things we need to attempt to do. First, let's talk about what we should avoid. Take your Bibles and go to the book of Ecclesiastes. You have Psalms, Proverbs, and then Ecclesiastes. In this study of Revelation, I am going to make a bold attempt. It's going to be very hazardous, dangerous, to get you to open your Bibles and go to different sections. In the church, no less. We're going to do that. So go to Ecclesiastes chapter 7, and I want you to look at verse 18. It's important for all of us to take heed to this verse. Solomon writes, "It is good to grasp the one and not let go of the other." He's talking about polar extremes. He's saying we need to understand both of them, because whoever fears God will avoid all extremes. And it is never more true in the book of Revelation. There are some extreme views or even some extreme attitudes towards the book of Revelation, and what this says is be careful. If you fear God, don't become wacko, really. So we got to be careful about that. What are the two extremes? One side, people can fall into this idea of being an extreme, excited zealot, somebody who just can't wait for his appearing, in the sense that they see it Behind every newspaper article, every shadow in a walkway, and every two-bit preacher that's on TV to talk like that. The extreme zealot are dangerous because they're always promoting their findings and warning people that this is just another sign. He's coming back this afternoon at 4:35 p.m. Did you know that the gas prices are going up because the Saudis, they're forcing us to kneel at the feet of the Muslim Brotherhood who will side with the Antichrist, who's going to rule the one world government from Brussels, Belgium, where he already has the beast computer. He's already implanting chips into your hands right now in this very moment. And when those chips are implanted, there are satellites circling the globe, thousands of them pointing directly at you. And if you ever mention the word Jesus, gospel, or Armageddon, you will be hauled off in a black helicopter taken to an American gulag out in Wyoming with Mike Carew. It's going to be exciting. Actually, last week I was talking with Corrine Towns, and she's still waiting for our former President Ronald Wilson Reagan to be raised from the dead because you know he's the Antichrist. How do we know that? Ronald, 6 letters. Wilson, 6 letters. Reagan, 6 letters. Add those up. 6. That's the extreme side, and I've seen people like that. But then you have another side. The other side are the cool, rational, cynical, sophisticated intellect. And they talk like that. They see any mention of the end time studies as a tedious bore. They'll say this, it's all allegory, poetry, and symbolic genre. That's a fancy word that they like to use, genre. Did you ever hear the word genre? Usually somebody say, what genre of music do you listen to? Well, I like the classics. Genre. We're going to study in a couple weeks correct biblical interpretation. We call it hermeneutics. We're going to talk about that in a couple weeks. But the group that falls on this side that just thinks any mention of the end times is ridiculous is dangerous. They believe Christianity is only about the here and now. Let's quit talking about pie in the sky speculation. C.S. Lewis once said, what is Christianity without pie in the sky? These people are the ones that seem like life goes on like evolution. It increases and changes in small incremental adaptions. The more time races into the future, the smarter and more reasonable we become. In the meantime, hand me another glass of port. That's how they talk. That's how they talk. I'm just giving you insight on the minds of these people. The second thing we need to avoid is allowing this book to exhaust us. I've been to some churches where they'll preach on Revelations for 3 years, 4 years. And I'm telling you, it can tear you apart. I remember one church took a year and a half and they're only on chapter 8 because they get into the minute detail. And after a while, they're like, I can't take it anymore. So we're only going to do 13 weeks. And they're going to be good. You will learn some things. But if you notice in your bulletins, I have on the front side a sermon sheet. You can follow my sermon. On the back side, home fellowship group questions, but on the bottom, those are for you who like to research deeply on topics. Actually, I have to confess, I love this stuff. I really am. Ask Pastor Ken. He thinks I'm a prophecy junkie. I love it. I love end-time movies. I love studying about the Illuminati, the Council on Foreign Relations. I read every book my mom sends me about the jihad and the Antichrist, and I've read a lot, pre-wrath rapture. I love reading about Adolf Hitler because I think he's going to be the Antichrist coming back. It's going to be exciting. See, you think I'm nuts. I'm telling you. I love the Twilight Zone. I love to fantasize about how would I survive if a nuclear bomb exploded and there were mutant zombies. I love imagining if I could survive. I'm sure you do too. I'm sure all of these guys do. But I've learned three things about prophecy from being a prophecy junkie. Number one, prophecy is meant to be more than a puzzle to solve or a scheme to properly develop. Do you want to hear all the schemes? There's hundreds of them. You can be a preterist, a historist, a progressive dispensationalist, a classic dispensationalist, premillennialist, amillennialist, a pre-wrath guy, Schofieldite. You can be an essentialist, an esoteric Kabbalist. You can be a peace-loving idealist. I'm telling you, there's 100 different lands and worlds to interpret this book. It can be quite a daunting task. And if you think you have it figured out, you don't. Secondly, prophecy, and let me emphasize this, rarely. I'll give a little bit of a potentiality for it, but it rarely saves. Let me say that again. Prophecy rarely saves. There's a belief that if I can get you to see that Revelation is coming true right now, you are bound to turn to Christ. What happens when we do that is the non-Christian hears us and they think we are kooky, weird, nuts. And if you present a God only Revelation, all they really see is a God who is bent on blood. Especially if you get to Revelations 14. It goes up to the bridle of the horses. Do you know what our message is to captivate people about Jesus? The gospel. Because on the cross, his son, who he loved, died for you. What that reveals is that Jesus loves you. I can promote that to the non-Christian. And then after you become a Christian, then I would say, let's get into Revelation. And you can every once in a while tell people, non-Christians, that, yeah, the end of the world's coming because I was watching Benny Hinn. No, don't. Just be careful, all I'm saying. Third thing, prophecy will never fully satisfy you. Never. It'll never be able to fully fulfill your curiosity because much that's hidden behind the veil of death is meant to be hidden. God is like a good mom who knows that she has to hide the chocolate cake while the kids are eating Brussels sprouts. Here's what I'm going to attempt, and what we should attempt, is I want to attempt the big themes of eschatology. Again, eschatology is end times, study of the end times. And by themes, is there are big movements in Revelation. There are big moments where God is going to finalize a lot of things. You have the narrative of the Bible is called creation, fall, redemption, consummation. Creation, God created this world in a beautiful, perfect way. Fall, sin entered. Redemption, God's entered into this world to sin to redeem us. And then consummation. Consummation has two parts of it. Wrath and then restoration. Basically, this is about consummation, specifically the first part, wrath. Last two chapters of Revelation is renewal and restoration of all things, of creation. The second thing we're going to attempt is allowing Revelation to change us. We're not just here for mind information. Information drop. We're here to meditate on this and then become different. Go to the book of 1 John. 1 John chapter 3. 1 John is 3 books before Revelation. First John chapter 3. In verse 2 and 3. John writes, "Dear friends," and this is the same John who was the one that received the revelation from Jesus. He says, "Dear friends, now we are the children of God." Stop right there. We are the children of God. We are his kids. Keep reading. "And what we will be has not yet been made known." That's in reference to when we get our new bodies, when we are part of the renewed creation in heaven. but it hasn't been made known. We have no idea what it's going to be like. We just don't. And then he writes, but we know that when Christ appears, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. All who have this hope in him purifies themselves just as he is pure. If you really believe this, if you really believe that that's what faith is, that I take him at his word, you're going to be just like Jesus. So why don't you start acting like it? Why don't you start purifying yourself? That's the whole point of Revelation. Christ's return should cause us to say, okay, I'm going to be prepared. So the big question when it comes to Christ's return, we're just going to ask simply today, not much today. But the question is, how soon? How soon? I think this is on everyone's mind. When is he going to come back? Is he going to come back today? Is he going to come back tomorrow? 100 years? Do you have a date? I will never give you a date. I won't even joke about it because God has said more than once he's going to come like a thief. No one knows the date or the hour. Even the Son of Man doesn't know the date or the hour, which is kind of bizarre. But those guys on TV who thinks they know the date, wow, they're smarter than Jesus. Revelation 1 and 3 says this. Chapter 1, 1 and 3. Revelation from Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servants what must soon take place. Verse 3. Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy, and blessed are those who hear it. Take to heart what is written in it, because the time is near. Two kind of troubling words. Soon, which means quickly, coming quickly, and near. What does that mean? Sounds kind of spooky. Like a teenage kid whose parents have gone away for the weekend and have a party, and all of a sudden mom calls up and says, hey, Johnny, I'm coming home a day early. We're already in the road. We will be home soon. Not ready. In the same way, when people have read these words, when they hear preachers preaching, bellowing from the pulpit, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming, he's coming. Man, some people are like, all right, if he's coming, where is he? You've been saying that for a long time. Other people are like, oh, God's been bluffing us. I just don't trust him anymore. Be very careful with that attitude. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 3 warns about not letting cynicism creep up in your heart where you ignore his coming altogether. He's talking about mockers, and he says, you must understand that in the last day scoffers will come, scoffing and following their own evil desires. They will say, where is this coming he promised? Ever since our fathers died, everything goes on as it has since the beginning of creation. And he's saying, be very careful, because that's the attitude of people when the thief comes. So to answer this important question of soon, I'm going to just answer two questions. First of all is when was it written? That's very important. Just for one reason, and we'll get into that. It's a little technical. We'll get into that in a minute. The second thing is what we need to understand is, what does he really mean by soon? When he says soon, does he really mean soon? See, for instance, go to Revelations 22. Revelations 22, if you notice, it goes all the way over all of the bowls and the trumpets and all the scary stuff. It's past chapter 20 and 21, and then he says in verse 7, look, I'm coming soon. So it's in reference to consummation, when he's going to make all things right. If he wrote this 2,000 years ago, things aren't right. So what did he mean by soon? Verse 12, he says the same thing. Look, I'm coming soon. My reward's with me. And in verse 20, he says the same thing. Yes, I'm coming soon. He wrote that 2,000 years ago. What does he mean? The full consummation of heaven hasn't occurred. So first thing, let's tackle, when was this written? I'm going to go really quick, because if you really want to get technical, read what I have on the bottom of that page. But there is a group of people that are called preterists. That's how they understand Revelation. And I bring this up because this is becoming more and more. It used to be popular. It lagged for a while. Now it's regaining popularity, especially in seminaries and cool young guys who talk together in their circles, in coffee shops and pubs. Preterism's becoming exciting again. What preterism teaches is that this all took place in the past, in the first century. Preter means past. That's what it means. And what they believe is they believe that everything in Revelation pretty much has already been fulfilled. And they get this from verse 7. Look at verse 7 of chapter 1. They're saying, look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, and even those who pierced him, and all the peoples on the earth will mourn because of him. So they use that verse. That's kind of like their key verse. They're saying Jesus said he's going to come in the clouds in Matthew 24. Jesus also linked in Matthew 24 the temple when it was destroyed. Maybe Jerusalem, when it was destroyed in AD 70 by Titus, was really the judgment of God that fulfilled this in a metaphorical way. So really what you have is a picture when Emperor Titus went into Jerusalem, sacked Herod's temple, destroyed it, didn't leave a stone upon another, took out all of the candelabras, the harps, all of the things of the temple sanctuary where the priests were, and they slaughtered, according to Josephus, 1,100,000 Jews. Josephus even said this was the worst war in the history of man. Well, he's an ancient historian. And so what happens is preterists will say, okay, when was this written? There's a debate. And here's the debate. There's one camp that says it was written, Revelation was written 65 AD. In the majority camp, which means even people that were early fathers say, no, it was more like 85 to 96 AD. Why is that important? And I know you're going, what does that have to do with anything? If it was written in 85 to 96, which most reputable scholars over the years believe it was after 70 AD. And look at verse 3. Revelation 1:3, it says, blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy. How can a prophecy predict the past? So, preterists said, nope. From our studies, from some obscure reasoning, it was 65 AD, which gives it credibility that it will happen in 70 AD. All I'm saying is that I believe Revelation was written, and I'm going on like John Stott's recommendations, Wolford's recommendations, all of these guys that I would say really have done the research. I believe it's been 85 to 96. So it destroys a lot of this preterism, which is, I'm telling you, it's up and coming. Also, if you look in verse 7 again, and I'm doing this for you who are prophecy junkies like me. Verse 7, it says, look, he's coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, even though he pierced him. And for those of you who know the Old Testament, to me, it's one of the most exciting books, the book of Zechariah. We'll go into it later on. We talk about Israel, but it says, look, there will be the spirit of David we poured on the nation Israel, and they will look on the one they've pierced. And it's not about the destruction of Jerusalem. It's actually about the restoration of the people of Israel. And if you read 3 verses before that, it says, Jerusalem will be safe. How could they be destroyed? So it's bad exegesis. And the third thing is look how it ends. All the peoples on the earth will mourn because of him. How could something that happened in Jerusalem be worldwide? And I've seen worse wars than only 1,100,000 that are overwhelming. So, to make a long story short, I don't think soon means the first century AD. I think soon means something else. And I get this, I want to read a quote to you from a guy by the name of Robert Mounts. He has written a lot of commentaries on Revelation, and he's dealing with the word soon. And he says this, the most satisfying solution is to take the expression must soon take place in a straightforward sense, remembering in the prophetic outlook, in the end, is always about imminency, the imminent. What is imminency? Here is the word imminency. Go to the next slide. Imminency is what this guy is saying. He's saying the word soon near, coming soon, is a statement of imminency. And you're like, what does that mean? Well, the word imminent means impending, close at hand. Right now, it's imminent that we're going to have a winter storm. It's imminent. Actually, the Latin word means overhang. It's overhanging us. These events are overhanging us. Like that snow that is thick and heavy and overhanging the eaves, at any time it could just fall down on us. At any time, these events can kick in. It's imminent. Let me show you in Scripture. Go to James chapter 5, 8 to 9. James chapter 5. And the reason I say this is because people say, give me some dates. It's imminent. Chapter 5, 8 to 9. James was written again back 2,000 years ago. James is writing to these people that were working under terrible bosses. And they were being mistreated, they were being paid unfairly, and they were mad. Listen to what James writes in verses 8 and 9 of chapter 5. It says, you too, you who are being treated unfairly, be patient. Stand firm, because the Lord's coming, it means his return is near. Don't grumble against one another, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. Why? Because the judge is standing at the door. Here's the picture. Don't worry, his return is near. It's any time. Not only that, he's standing at the door. That means he's waiting. He's near, just ready to go when the Father gives him the okay. Go to Hebrews, one book to the left. Hebrews chapter 1. In verses 1 and 2. Hebrews 1, 1 and 2, it says, in the past, God spoke to our ancestors through the prophets at many times and in various ways. So he spoke through David, Moses, spoke through Isaiah, all over the place, all over the globe. But, verse 2, in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son. The implication is the arrival of the Son, specifically the first time he came, kicked off the last days. So, in the mind of God, we've arrived at the 0 hour. You can put it like this. In biblical parlance, living in the last days, it means we are always on borrowed time. Always. Nothing really needs to be accomplished before he comes. We are at 0 hour. And some people are like, oh, here we go again. We've always been at 0 hour. If you say that, then you don't understand something. You don't understand God's time frame. Go to 2 Peter. This is 3 books to your right now. 2 Peter, this will be the last one I have you turn to. 2 Peter chapter 3. Second Peter 3, verses 8 to 10. And he says, do not forget this one thing, dear friends. With the Lord, a day, 24 hours, to the Lord is like 1,000 years. And 1,000 years are like a day. What does that mean? God lives in eternity. Eternity is a long time. A day for God is our 1,000 years. God yawning is probably 50 years for us. So in other words, to encapsulate what imminency means, take this phrase, in a moment. 1 Corinthians says, twinkling of an eye. That's a metaphor for imminency. 8 years ago, my phone rang late at night. About 2 in the morning, I picked it up. I felt rudely awakened out of a wonderful sleep. I picked up the phone. Here's what it said. Chris, Dad has been rushed to the hospital. It doesn't look good. In a moment, my life changed. 18 years ago, my wife and I were celebrating Thanksgiving with the rest of the church body at a Thanksgiving Eve service over at the old gym, at the old church in the bottom of the church in the fellowship hall. I was sitting on one of those fold-out metal chairs that have Kent City Baptist spray painted on the back. My wife turned to me and said, "Chris, we need to go now. I am going to have a baby tonight." In a moment, my life was forever changed. One day in the future, I don't know when, and I don't know where, and I don't know how, I may be sitting on the couch, walking to my car, or possibly eating a ham and cheese sandwich. The skies are going to open, and Jesus himself will say, "Chris, come up here." That's it. In an instant. The honest truth is, even if all of my interpretive convictions and schemes about Revelation they don't come to be what I think they're going to be, even if I get a lot of verses wrong, some verses wrong, or the whole thing right, how much time do you think you still have right now on this earth? Right now. I was thinking about it. I probably have 20 if I follow the pattern of my dad and grandfather. I may have only 5 years left. If I'm lucky, I might have 40 years left. That's a long time. But each of those amounts are nothing. Nothing in light of eternity. They are nothing. If you really want to be shocked, walk down this hallway, on this hallway where you pick up the kids, and you'll see 2 plaques up there. They are plaques of the memorial or funeral services we've done in this church in the last 7 years. You wouldn't believe who died. Some of the people that I thought would be in this church forever. In a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, they're gone. So the question is, as we go through this whole study, is are you ready? Are you prepared? In conclusion, an Indiana cemetery had a tombstone over 100 years old that bore this epitaph. Here's what it said. "Pause, stranger. When you pass me by, as you are now, so once was I. As I am now, so you will be. So, prepare for death and follow me." An unknown passerby had read those words and scratched this reply right below them. "To follow you, I'm not content until I know." Which way you went. We're going to learn in the book of Revelation which way is the right way to go. Do you know which way you're going? If you don't, for 13 weeks, follow me.